What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. So for this horror news update slash trailer review, we're going to revisit this trailer for this film, Australian horror movie The Moogai, releasing in May from Samuel Goldwyn Films. Some of you may have already heard of this film. This film actually came out towards the end, I want to say mid-late 2024. It didn't get a full wide release. From what I could find, it was obviously released in Australia. There were some others that were able to view it through one of the festivals it was premiered at last year. However, outside of that, it hasn't gotten, again, a wide release. But what this article is going to touch on, and as you can see from as we start to get into the details here, 1 year after the film premiered at Sundance, Deadline reports this week that the horror movie, The Moogai, has been picked up for U.S. distribution by Samuel Goldwyn Films. Quote, a May theatrical release is in the works, Deadline notes. So again, I know a lot of people probably have already heard of this film because it did come out last year for some individuals, obviously not here in the US, but now the US will be getting this release, and they are working on getting a theatrical release for this film. Now, as far as when it was released last year, I can only find one that it was, as far as getting a theatrical release outside Sundance, was in Australia, but it only garnered around $160,000 box office wise, so it didn't bring in that much. Now, whether or not that will be a different story when it releases here in the US, if it does in fact get that May theatrical release, we'll have to wait and see on what that release entails. Will it be a full theatrical release? Will it be a limited release, and then it gets digital and video on demand on the same day? If it does go that route where it does both types of releases, I don't see the box office results being that great or any better than they were last year, because I feel a lot of people will either overlook this film as far as going to the theater, and they'll just happen to stumble across it, whether it's other content creators covering it, or they just happen to be looking in the horror section on a streaming platform or video on demand, and they see, oh, well, what's this film? And they may or may not, decide to rent it or purchase it, right? So I have a feeling this may only get several viewings, so to speak, once it hits a streaming platform where, if you have access, like Shudder, for example, it just happens to be a new film on Shudder and people want to give it a chance, right? Because they're already paying that fee for the Shudder platform. So the Moogai, Sarah, this was with the synopsis for the film. Sarah and Fergus, a hopeful young Aboriginal couple, give birth to their second baby, but what should be a joyous time for their lives becomes sinister when Sarah starts seeing a malevolent spirit she is convinced is trying to take her baby. Fergus, who can't see it but desperately wants to believe her, grows increasingly worried as she becomes more unbalanced. In the child-stealing spirit real, or is she, in the fact, the biggest threat to the safety of their family? So I feel like I've said this before. I feel like when we see something where this is already kind of covered in another film, maybe it's been covered in another film, I feel like it might have been touched on, maybe not to this degree, but I am interested to give it a chance. I've heard of this film. I had not really paid much attention to it, to be honest. This is what caught my eye as far as getting a US release. I was aware it was at Sundance, but at the time, there just wasn't enough information last year for me to really go on as far as, is this something I would want to see or not see? But we're going to take a look at the trailer. And as it says here, the feature adapts Bell's own award-winning 2021 short film of the same name. We have the producer information. The trailer is not in this link. I wouldn't pull up the trailer that we're going to look at here in a moment, but I'll put both links for this article and the trailer in the description of this video below, so you can come back, take a look at the article details, and you'll have the link for the trailer. But fingers crossed it does become a successful film here in the US, whether it does just get a limited theatrical run, or if it happens to get a limited run and go to streaming, but at least it will be available for us here in the US, because I'm always interested in other regional horror films, whether it's Australia, whether it's Asian horror films. I think especially Korean horror films, I don't think we get enough of those making their way over here to the US. So when they do pop up, I always take an interest in seeing those particular ones. So we're going to take a look at the trailer for this, just in case for many of you who have not seen the trailer, just to give you an idea of what this film is going to be about.
Are you seeing children with white eyes? children stolen by the Moogai. Sometimes we escape, sometimes we don't.
I'd like to celebrate the woman who's done the most to close this deal, Sarah Bishop.
Cheers.
Mommy!
She's bleeding, people. We've got a placental abruption. Hold her down.
She needs total rest. She died on that table. It's a miracle they're both still alive.
How are things at home?
Just really tired. I suppose that's normal, though. Isn't it? Where's your brother? Why did you do that?
I didn't.
Can I put some ochre around the place? You can't let the Moogai in.
Don't you listen to her, okay?
But Mommy...
She's just a crazy old lady.
Me go!
A little girl. She's been telling me about a man, and he wants to take my kids. Fergus, do you believe me?
He's coming for them.
I don't know what's happening.
We're not running anymore. This is where we'll make our stand.
I am not going to leave my children.
Okay, so there were some definite like eerie moments in that trailer. I'll say the two eeriest would have to be when we see the infant or the baby as we're panning down looking at the baby and its eyes open up and they're pure white. That, and then the ending scene as Fergus is waking up and looking over at the crib and you see these creatures' hands as if it's reaching into the crib to abduct or kidnap the baby. That probably the two eeriest scenes in the film, outside of when she's in the kitchen and she's looking like she's making eggs and the embryo or something has grown or inside these eggs, which I'm sure it's part of the hallucinations that she's having. But yeah, that was on a whole nother level disgusting. I'm all in for this, and I do hope it does get a full theatrical run. I hope it is successful here in the U.S. because I think these are the types of films that do deserve as much attention as possible. It's interesting to see though that the doctor mentioned that they both, I think maybe he was just talking to the mother about the mother to Fergus, that she had died, but they obviously saved her, and it's lucky that they both survived. So I'm wondering if that incident, whatever that was, that caused them to die and then come back, was part of the Moogai, so to speak. Because then everything after that seems to be where, again, she's having these hallucinations where it was the eggs. We see a snake coming out of an egg. And then we see where she wakes up, she believes she's seeing her daughter at the doorway, which I believe that was probably her daughter, because we saw even with her oldest daughter that her eyes were white a couple of times. And then we see the creature's hands coming around the corner into the entryway of the door. So I'm betting much of this is going to be hallucinations, and it appears to be the mother-in-law that's there, the grandmother to the children, was using some sort of traditional religious aspects where she was drawing things on the wall. She was using some sort of burning of some sort of plant, right, to maybe cleanse the aura of the house, right? So, and we even saw some of that towards the end where an individual was taking this white substance or like paint or clay and was pulling it down off their, like, rubbing it down onto their face, right? So I think this is going to touch on a lot of different aspects. Now, as far as what subgenre this would fall into, I really couldn't pinpoint outside of saying like horror, thriller. Because I mean, I wouldn't want to say witchcraft, because if those are obviously religious beliefs, I wouldn't call anyone's religious beliefs witchcraft. So I'm not really sure what that would play into. This obviously isn't body horror or anything of that nature, even though it has to do with children. I don't want to even say science fiction, because we don't see like an alien abduction. We don't see any alien presence outside of this mysterious creature. So I think it's gonna be hard to pinpoint what subgenre this one might fall into, but I am, again, interested to see this one. So drop a comment in the comment section. Let us know if you've heard of this film, The Moogai, if you have heard of the film, or if you had an opportunity to see it at some point in one way or another last year. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let us know what you thought about it. Let us know what you would rate it out of 5. I would be interested to know who has seen it. And if you haven't seen it, let us know if you are interested, if you're going to try and check this one out, whether it's potentially in theaters in May or via a streaming platform. But I've already added it to my list and we'll be checking it out. And if you haven't done so already, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, we'll see you at the next one. Peace.